So the trilogy is now complete. It's time to do our full-on spoiler review for Fear Street Part 3, 1666, and I'll try not to say 1666 as much as I did in my spoiler-free review. So anyway, let's go!
I will show them what you've done. I will never let you go.
What's up, guys? Just yesterday, last night, as of this recording, I dropped my spoiler-free review, and that might be the most dancing around spoilers I have ever done in a review. I pretty much told you nothing. I just told you I liked it. That's about it. And sometimes when I do that, it's just because there's a lot of stuff in the movie that I think not necessarily ruin, but it'll definitely hurt your viewing experience. And I'm a big proponent of no spoilers. I don't like anything spoiled for me when I go into a movie, okay? So that's why I was so careful in that review. But now we get to stretch our legs. We get to talk about spoilers for Part 3, 1666. So know that going into this, unless you just don't care about spoilers, we're going to be talking about everything in this. First off, I mean, how surprising was that in the middle of this that it went 1994 Part 2? I thought, wow, okay, that was insane. Even though I knew that they'd eventually have to come back to 1994 to kind of wrap up the whole story, because this is the last part, you know? This is the third part in a trilogy. As they say in Scream 3, all bets are off. It's too bad Scream 3 kind of sucked. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of hating on Scream this week for some reason. I did I think Urban Legend is better than Scream. I did the most overrated sequel is Scream 2. I just posted that on Killer Flicks. So all you Scream fans, I apologize. I do. But that's just my true feelings. And also, before we dive deep into this, considering doing a live stream, kind of just covering this whole series and maybe comparing it to the books. I have a very, very reliable source that knows the books back and front. So anyway, this starts off at, I guess, the end of 1994, and it pretty much gives us a recap of everything that we've seen so far, especially 1978. And I like that it started off that way. And you see Dina, she's joined the hand with the body of Sarah Fear, and then all of these, I guess, Sarah Fear's memories come rushing to her, and that's like almost like a nice portal for the viewer to go back to 1666. And one of my viewers in the comments of my spoiler-free review was asking, like, why are the actors the same in the, you know, the 300 years earlier version than 1994? And to me, I think that's because the 1994 characters are ancestors of, you know, the 1666 and 78. And I think for the viewer, it just makes it easier to connect those dots. So to me, it makes perfect sense. These are actual ancestors, so of course they're going to look a little bit like them. But, you know, from a narrative point of view, it just makes it easier for the viewer. I also saw some complaints about it being slow in the first like 30 minutes, and I don't mind that. They're building the story. They're building the character of Sarah Fear. This is something I've been waiting for throughout this whole thing. I want to know more about Sarah Fear and what caused her to be killed by the townspeople. I mean, I had a good idea, but seeing it unfold, you know, gave me a lot more clarity. And this was a love story, you know, kind of like in 1994. You're going to see a lot of parallels with certain elements of this entire trilogy. But in the 1666, it was Hannah and Sarah. They were in love with each other. And they were pretty much scapegoats. Because there's this tragedy that happens in this church, this Father Miller. When they walk in, it looks like a freaking bloodbath, you know? And it's crazy. All these children have their eyes gouged out, including the pastor himself. So it definitely looks like something evil. And of course, these the Puritans, they are, you know, they're very dogmatic and they want somebody to pay. It's not enough to have just Pastor Miller because it couldn't be his fault, right? It's got to be somebody else. So who do they blame? They blame Sarah Fear and Hannah because earlier in the movie, there was this character that made a pass at Hannah, you know, and by pass, I mean he pretty much tried to push his boner upon her, and she rejects him. And so this guy later points the finger at them and says he saw them in the woods and they're the ones that are the cause of this, and it's witchcraft. You know, this is the Crucible. This is a story that we've heard quite a few times, actually. So then there's this character Solomon, who I was very, very careful about in the spoiler-free review. And Solomon, up to this point, looks like this character that's good. He looks like he's trying to save Sarah Fear. He even lets her take shelter in his home and lies for her, tells the townspeople that no, she's not here. And so we're rooting for this guy. We're thinking, oh, okay, I see where this is going. This is kind of cool. Of course, they're going to catch her. They're going to kill her anyway because we know that. But Solomon seems like a cool guy, right? No. Turns out Solomon is the key to this whole curse. He made this deal with the devil. Basically, he's going to get the devil some fresh souls like every few years. And in return, the devil is going to give him, riches and wealth and power, and his ancestors throughout eternity. And the big twist here is that we find out that Sarah wasn't a witch in the first place. She never was a witch. And we assumed because of 78 and 94 that she was a witch because she's the one that cast this spell on all these slasher killers, bringing them back to life and making them unstoppable, a force. But that scene where she discovers Solomon's true nature is, I think, the best scene in the movie because it's the most emotional, She realizes that she's about to get screwed over, not just by the townspeople, but by Solomon himself. She's about to get killed, and it's a very emotional scene and very well acted by all parties, especially Kiana Madeira. I highly praised her performance in my last review, but I loved her in this role, actually. And I like some good emotion in a horror movie, and I knew that this wouldn't completely depend on slasher elements. It was going to be more character-based and showing how she became this witch. But I never expected to really, feel so bad for her, to really be heartbroken for this character. And that's what it turned out to be. And so that gives 1666, I guess, like an emotional edge compared to the previous two entries, which I loved. This movie had so much writing on it to tell that story, but then to also tie everything up. And because of that emotional edge, I think it made it even better. But previously, there's an important line that she tells Hannah that, she read the book I don't know what the book's called, but it was basically the book of the devil. She read the book, but she tells Hannah, because I read the book doesn't mean that the devil's going to take over. You have to want him. You have to summon him. That's a very important line in the movie because it comes back because she's angry. She wants vengeance. And so she tells Solomon before she dies, if they want the witch, I'll give them the witch. I really loved this line. It was badass. And also she tells Solomon, the truth shall be your curse. I will follow you forever. The truth will come out. Chill bumps, people, okay? And so this is where we fast forward to 1994 part 2, which at this point I was surprised. I was like, oh shit, we're in the middle of the movie and we're already jumping to 1994. This could be bad or it could be good. I mean, because it could feel rushed, but no, I don't think it was rushed. But I will say this was my least favorite part of the movie. I preferred the actual 1666 part of the movie. I thought that stuff was brilliant. Not to take anything away from the awesomeness of 1994 Part 2. There was some great stuff in there, especially with all the slashers coming out, big showdown at the mall. And I was glad Gillian Jacobs got some more fat to chew on in this movie because really she didn't do much up to this point. So she's a key factor here in beating Sarah Fear's slashers. I guess that's what I'll call them. So it's like the return of Ziggy. And it's cool you see like characters from 78 and 94 working together. But really the main mission here is they figure out they have to kill Sheriff Good. Which this is the part where I was like, oh, how are they going to pull this off without being tried for murder, right? As soon as Good shows up, Dina lures him down below the mall. This is a really cool scene because the mall is in the same location as Solomon's, I guess, evil lair, catacombs, whatever. And so you see that grate, which doubles for the floor that she kicked up earlier. But she has to lure him down there, and then there's this big struggle. And of course, she kills him. She stabs him. Now, this is where I had a problem with the movie, because after she stabs him, how did they get out of this situation and not be arrested? And I felt like they just kind of kicked some dirt over it and called it a day. She goes outside, and I believe like the sheriff's brother gets hit by a truck. Like, that was convenient. It's unfortunate because the last thing you remember in this movie is a con, in my eyes. And everything before that was awesome. I mean, overall, I still loved 1666. And after letting it ponder a little bit, I think 66 might actually be my least favorite. You know, I'm going back and forth because it's really close to 94, but I think as I'm like processing it, it might be my least favorite. And then they give us a little teaser at the end that this story could go on, and that is pretty much up to the success of this trilogy. If this trilogy is a big success, then maybe they will do more Fear Street stories down the line, because it is a vast world with these books. There's a lot of books. So, I don't know, maybe they could tell more stories. Being that these 3 movies are so different than the books themselves anyway, hell, they could go back and tell the actual story that's in the books. So after that process, I'm going to go with a purchase worthy. I gave it a chapter on an island, but I think I'm going to give this like a high purchase worthy. Overall though, very strong conclusion to this trilogy. I still hold that it is what you would call a quote unquote a perfect trilogy. Perfect trilogies aren't necessarily perfect. Of course, they might have a little flaw here and there, but overall still a very enjoyable experience all the way through. I'm actually looking forward to going back and watching all these all the way through. So, did I miss any big spoilers? I don't think I did. Let me know in the comments if I did. But did you enjoy this trilogy as a whole? Do you plan on going back and watching the whole thing? Would you like to see a stream where I just kind of talk about the whole thing? I don't know. It could be fun to, like, you know, chat it up with you guys and yeah, just explore, I guess. Anyway, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And Drumdum out.